Hi guys, I'm Dimension Jumper. Today I'll be reviewing The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which was released in 2011 for the Nintendo Wii. Now, when this game was released, it marked the 25th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda series, and it's quite good. I quite enjoy this game. Because this is one of those Zelda games that is kind of like split between Zelda fans. There are first Zelda fans that love this game, and there are other Zelda fans that not a big fan of this game. And I'm one of those people who really love this game, and I really enjoy playing this game, and I really enjoy a lot of the elements that this game has to bring. So, and the order in this game comes out in the timeline per se is at the very beginning of the timeline. This basically introduced a lot of things that we have seen throughout the Zelda games. So like the Master Sword, Hyrule Kingdom, the establishment of the royal family, the Triforce, and various other elements that you might pick up along the way in Zelda games. So the story is the goddess Hylia, who's like the original creator of like the three god and goddesses, who are Faroe, Nehru, and Din, basically went to war with this demon king called Demise, and she, along with some of her allies, went to war with him, and she sent some remaining humans up to the skies, or as Hylians, as they're tend to be called. And years later, the remaining humans are basically during the anniversary of the goddess Hylia, and the main character, Link, as always, gets this dream and about how he's this chosen hero to save the world, and you get to see this big monster scaly guy, and it's basically, to me, looks like an avocado. I'll put an image of the monster and an avocado like side by side, and it's kind of hard to it kind of resembles an avocado. So then he attends this race after finding his Loftwing, which are basically these big bird creatures that can take people wherever they want to go. And basically, what it is basically whoever gets this statue from this golden Loftwing basically wins the race, and whoever wins it basically gets to be with Zelda on top of the golden statue, but on top of the statue of the goddess Hylia, and then they receive her sailcloth, which is basically this sort of parachute. Basically like a parachute, but less like a parachute. It's kind of hard to explain. And then Zelda gets dragged down. Well, when I say dragged down, I mean she gets this basically Link and Zelda goes on this they basically hang out together for a while until this tornado basically just throws Zelda off her Loftwing and down below the clouds, because Skyloft is built above all this massive amount of clouds. And then Link finds the person who's been speaking to him, which is Fee, and then yada yada yada. He has to find Zelda and bring her back to Skyloft, and yeah. And what I like about the whole game is that Link basically is doing this for his friend. He's saving Zelda, who he's known for since he was a child, and I think that's a really good motivation for him, because a lot of the other times Link is basically saving Princess Zelda. The only other time in which he and Link and Zelda have been friends is in the Minish Cap. That's basically the only time, aside from other smaller games in the series, in which Link and Zelda have been known to be friends. And so Link not only gets Fi, who's basically his companion throughout the game, but it also gets the Goddess Sword, which is basically a sword created by the Goddess. And what I like about this sword is that it can use energy beams known as Skyward Strikes. Now, what Skyward Strikes basically are basically, if you raise your sword like upwards, you basically form this energy blast, and if you like swing your sword forwards, it can release the energy. Now, this is the only Zelda game to use the Wii Motion Plus. Now, the Wii Motion Plus basically are used in like very few games, that Skyward Sword included, and it's basically where if you move your like Wii Remote with the Wii Motion Plus on, the movement will follow you. And this is kind of like different to how Twilight Princess used it, because Twilight Princess basically just used a normal Wii Remote, and it's kind of like, even though it was good, like you could like hack and slash your way through enemies, I think Skyward Sword did it a lot better. And here is a comparison of how both Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword use the movement of their swords. So, sword play for Twilight Princess is obviously different from Skyward Sword, because in Twilight Princess it doesn't use the motion controls like in Skyward Sword. So if I do this, so if I just shake the Wii Remote about, Link will just basically do the same. And the nunchuck, I basically spin. So basically, like the sword play for like Twilight Princess is very, as I said before, very different. You basically just shake the Wii Remote about, and that's how you basically hit all your enemies. And obviously, if you do basically throw yourself with the Wii Remote and nunchuck, you can basically do different things. And yeah, that's the sword play for Twilight Princess, and now I'm going to show you the sword play for Skyward Sword. So, the gameplay, well, the sword gameplay in particular, is a bit different from Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, because Skyward Sword uses the Wii Motion Plus for the Wii Remote. So if you, for example, raise your sword skyward, you can summon Skyward Strike, and then if you bring your sword in any direction, like good enough, you can do a Skyward Strike. If you bring your Wii Remote and nunchuck in the same direction, you can do a spin, which loses stamina. If you thrust with the nunchuck, Link can block with a shield. If you thrust with the Wii Remote, Link will thrust with the sword. You can do that. If you can do horizontal, vertical, whatever, vertical, horizontal, vertical, but you can basically do a lot of more motions. That's basically what I'm trying to say about the sword play, because you can basically do a lot more motions in Skyward Sword than you can do in Twilight Princess. And that has been the sword play for both Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. So, the gameplay throughout the game is quite good, because you basically fight a lot of monsters that can either block your attacks. Two of these enemies are the Lothalfosses and the Bokoblins. With the Lothalfosses, they have these stone arms, and they basically can use it to like block any kind of attack. So, and with the Bokoblins, they have a variety of swords. They have a barbed wooden sword, and they have a steel normal sword. And if you block, if you swing a certain direction, they block your attack, and you basically have to use your swords in the other in the opposite direction to the movement they've been blocking in. And then once they're down, you can finish them off with a fatal blow, and that basically means that if an enemy is knocked back on their feet and they're still alive, you can basically use both the nunchuck and the Wii Remote to basically just finish them off. And you've also got your spin attack, your hack and slash attacks, that sort of thing. And yeah, and I really enjoy how you can basically use all of these attacks, because you can basically like try and like use variety of ways to hit enemies. For example, the Octoroks, you can basically deflect your shield back at them, and I like it how in Skyward Sword, as well as Twilight Princess, you can basically just basically do actual damage, like, well, kind of ish, but like what I'm talking about is basically if you, unlike other Zelda games, like, you know, Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, let's say, in those two games, if you wanted to bounce back projectiles, all you had to do was basically hold up your shield. But in Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, you can actually like deflect them back, and I think that's really cool. Like, if you thrust it with your nunchuck, you can basically just parry the attacks, and I think that's really cool and a really good idea. And I think like other Zelda games like Breath of the Wild have used, and I think the parry attack is a really good idea. And here's some gameplay of Skyward Sword. So the controls for flying your Loft Wing about is pretty good, because you can basically just, with the motion controls, you can basically, if you turn it left and right, your bird will also go that way. If you go up, it will go up, but if you go down, if you can go down, it will do a dive, and I think that's quite cool. And if you shake your Wii remote up and down, it can flap its wings about. Now, the wings on the bottom of the screen are basically little speed boosts, and if you press A, you'll get the speed boost. You can press dive, or the down button, to dive, and you press down again on the D-pad, you can summon your bird, and I think that's quite good. And also, if you go to any of these columns of light, I'll show you what you can do once you jump down into one of these pillars. Oh, if we can get it. There we go. So if we go into one of the columns, you can point to any of these bird statues that are scattered around each of these lands. So for example, let's say I choose Into the Woods. Does it into this area? Yes. I can then go to the exact location that I pointed to. And the gameplay itself, if you just like do with the swords, are quite good, because for example, you can face a variety of enemies that can go against different attacks. So let's say, for example, the Deku Barbers, for example, there are two different varieties of them. Well, three different varieties, but like there's like the blue ones, which can have a vertical or horizontal attack, with the gold ones either being horizontal or vertical, and that can be said a bit also with the upper goblins, because there's also some how are they called? No. Those are some Octoroks, yes. And if you block their attack with your shield, you can basically hit them with their own projectiles. There's also with the goblins, they can also block some of your attacks. So again, so you can then block all your attacks. So make sure like you get the blind spot or something before they attack you back. And you can also like cut trees as well, and I think it's quite cool. And you can basically cut them in various ways, like this and other stuff. And some of the trees have gold spots in it, so that's basically rupees, and you can miss them or hit them like that. And for the items, you can if you press and hold B, you can select different ones. So, for example, it's got the bombs. You can throw the bombs. You can also tuck them away, and I think that's quite like the only Zelda game that does this, and I think it's quite cool. And you can also roll the bombs and basically like turn them either left or right or straight on. You've also got the slingshot. You can just basically fire like a particular shot, and they can be used on enemies. You've got the gust bellows, which can use wind, and yeah. You've got the quick beetle or the hook beetle, because you can upgrade the beetle. This can be used to like pick up stuff. So, for example, if they want to get that heart piece, that heart over there, I can basically quickly just use it to get the heart, and they will come straight back. So this being the flying gameplay and the game-based gameplay, and now it's time to go back to the review. So throughout the game, you'll be able to visit all these different places, well, mainly 3 different places, to explore through, mainly being Fountain Woods, Elden Volcano, and Lanero Desert. And all of them have their own unique style to them. So for Elden Volcano, it's basically a giant volcano, and you basically go around a lot of like, lava type areas in that section. And in Lanero Desert, not only do you get to go through a desert, but there are certain parts which make use of these crystals called time shift crystals, and what they do is basically revitalize certain parts of the desert if you hit them, and they bring old things back to life. So for example, there are these little robot guys, and they can when you first see them, they'll be all like decayed and broken and not working, but when you activate a time shift zone, you'll be able to reactivate them, and they'll be doing the jobs that they were doing like thousands and thousands of years ago. And for Fountain Woods, it's basically got like an actual forest. It's got like birds. It's got Deku Babas. It's got these creature plant type animals, which are basically called kikwis, I think, and they're basically animal creature guys who've got like a plant on their back, and they can use it as camouflage. And I think that's a really good like a good creature, like a creature to have, and in the Zelda universe, and the sort of like good like power that they have, that they can actually disguise themselves as like the scenery. And I think that's like really cool. And then also in Elden Volcano, there are these mole guys who can basically dig around underground and search for treasure, and then they also give you the ability to dig underground, and I think it's really cool. And you basically go throughout like each section, going to every single dungeon and basically beating the boss, and then you find out that Girahim, who's basically working for the Demon King, who's called Demise, basically he wants to have Zelda because she's like a key to unlocking Demise. And then you basically go to the springs, which will lead to the Temple of Time in the desert, and then you have to fight the imprisoned. And yeah, and what I like about some of the elements in the story is that in the halfway point, you have to go to the Gate of Time, or well, the Temple of Time. You go through the Gate of Time, but that one's broken by Impa, so you have to reactivate another one, but you have to beat this imprisoned, and then go and find 3 Sacred Flames. Now, the 3 Sacred Flames are probably my favourite part of the game, because you can basically have to learn these songs, and the reason why you have to play the 3 Sacred Flames is because you need to temper your sword, because of you have to imprison this. You have to reseal the imprisoned, which is basically the big avocado monster creature that you see in your dreams. And basically, you'd find these 3-second flames. These 3-second flames. Then you have to learn 3 different songs because Zelda gave you a harp. Well, her harp, and yeah, and you basically do these trials. And what I like about the trials is that you're basically going through this Sacred Realm type stage where you don't have your sword or any of your items. It's just you collecting these tears or shard things. I can't exactly remember what they're called, but like to me they kind of look like pears, like small little pears things. I forgot what they're called exactly, but if you collect enough of them, which I think they're like 15 or 25 of them in each area, you can collect a sacred relic. And each sacred relic is different. It's basically, in the first one you get, in Fountain Woods, you get a water dragon scale, which allows you to breathe underwater. Second one, which is in the Area Desert, you get the claw shots, which allow you to go to unreachable areas. And in the final one, in Elden Desert, Elden Volcano, you get the fireproof earrings, which allow you to become fireproof at any extremely heated areas. And then, yeah, and what I like about finding all of the Sacred Flames is that of the use of these relics, is like for the dragon scale, you have to basically climb up this tall mountain in the center of Fountain Woods. And for the claw shots, you basically have to go towards this platform, which leads to like a sea desert, which is basically a dried up sea full of sand, and you get to go on a pirate boat, which is quite cool. And for Elden Volcano, you basically go into the depths of the volcano itself, and I think that's quite cool. But in doing so, the Goddess Sword becomes the Master Sword, and then when you reach Zelda, after beating the president again, it becomes the true Master Sword. You know, the sword when it has like it's two clamp thingies. You know, like it's because originally it goes like from Goddess Sword to the Master Sword, in which is basically this unfinished blade. But then when it's blessed, it becomes kind of like, you know, it has a symbol of the Triforce like on this section somewhere. I can't exactly remember yeah, what it is, but it becomes the true Master Sword, and only Link can like wield it, or any person that's descended from Link can wield the Master Sword. And I think that's quite cool because like it adds a bit more lore to the Master Sword because of how much of how like only people who are descendants of Link can use the Master Sword, and I think that's quite cool. So Zelda tells you to try and find the Triforce, and that's basically what you do, and you find this Leviathan called Levius, who's basically this giant, massive whale. And he tells you that you have to find another Sacred Realm, even though it's probably... there are only 4 Sacred Realms, and I really don't think... Well, I do like the Sacred Realms, but it is kind of a chore to get to them. And then you find the Triforce, which is basically in this final dungeon area, which is kind of like unique, I say, because you basically have this basically dungeon, but it's also like the rooms are itself are a puzzle, because you've got various different areas. So basically you've got a forest room, you've got a desert room, you've got a like a factory type room, and you've also got these tablet things which allow you to shape the dungeon in any way you want, but as long as you're trying to get the 3 different pieces of the Triforce. Now, in doing so, you are able to vanquish Demise in the present, but Girahim, who you've been facing against a couple of times throughout the game, manages to get Zelda because before you even find the Triforce, Zelda, who went through the Gate of Time, says that she has to seal herself to save them, to basically stop Demise. And I think that's kind of like heart-wrenching because Zelda's basically sacrificing herself for like millennia, to just so that the seal around Demise can basically just stay shut. But of course, it breaks open 3 times, and you get to face it. They've been in prison 3 times, and I think it's like not the best fight, but it's also kind of like an okay fight. It's like it could be more. Yeah, that prison was kind of like hyped up way too much, but I would have wished it was like kind of like had a more hyped up fight. But that's my personal opinion. But also, you find out the imprisoned is actually Demise. The imprisoned form is just his like kind of like distorted form or something. I can't exactly remember. But then giving him takes Zelda from. It's kind of like complicated because like The Legend of Zelda uses time travel, and Skyward Sword does use time travel in this game. So yeah, giving him take Zelda into the past, but then he can resurrect Demise. But I think the final fight is kind of like a really good fight because you basically have to fight Demise in this sort of like vast open area which has nothing to be seen like for miles. And at the end, Demise curses Link that his reincarnation will follow the blood of the hero and the soul of the goddess, because Zelda is a reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. And I think that's really good lore, because it basically adds to like how Ganondorf's born, how the hero of time, of all of these different eras are born, how whenever each evil arises, a hero arises as well as the soul of the goddess. And I think this does it well, unlike on other prequel stuff like the Star Wars games, the Star Wars movies, how their prequels, like, even though we know what's going to happen, they do it like okay. But with Skyward Sword, I think they do it well because of how they can basically encapsulate the entire history of the Zelda games into one game that started it all, and I really enjoy everything about this game. So my final verdict for the game is that it's a really enjoyable game. I enjoy a lot of parts of the game. I enjoy collecting all the little things you can collect in the game, like the heart pieces, all of the empty bottles, all of the doing all the side quests, main quests, mini games, all of the things that this game has to offer. I really enjoy, and even though they're like slightly better games than this game, like Breath of the Wild, I still enjoy playing this game for what it is. So I hope you enjoyed my review of Skyward Sword. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.